Before I begin, let me ask you a question that will shake your spirit a little bit. What would your life look like if nobody, and I mean nobody, could pull you out of character anymore? What if people's opinions, attitudes, disrespect, jealousy, or negativity could not touch you, shift you, or make you react? See, most people spend their entire lives being emotionally hijacked by the behaviors of others, and they don't even realize they're giving away the most valuable currency they have, their internal peace. Today, I'm going to show you the secret to never getting angry or bothered by anyone ever again. And once you understand this secret, you won't need to fight for peace, because peace will start fighting for you. The secret to never getting angry or bothered by anyone is simple, but not easy. You must decide that no one else has the power to determine your emotional state. People don't make you mad. They just expose the anger already inside of you. People don't bother you. They simply reveal the unhealed places you're still carrying. When you understand this, you stop trying to fix people and you start strengthening yourself. See, the problem is not that people offend you. It's that you've allowed their words to register as truth inside your identity. But when you become rooted in who you are, when you know your mission, when you know your calling, when you know your value, when you know your assignment, you stop being moved by opinions from people who aren't even qualified to judge your journey. The person who annoys you controls you, but the person you refuse to react to loses all power. Your peace is the highest form of self-respect you can give yourself. And the day you stop letting people's words penetrate you is the day you rise into emotional mastery. Not because they changed, but because you did. The moment you realize that no one deserves control over your emotions is the moment you step into a new realm of personal power. Most people go through life reacting to everything around them. What people say, what people do, how people behave, how people treat them. And because they are constantly reacting, they never take time to understand that the true battle of their life is happening inside, not outside. When someone can ruin your day with a comment, when someone can shift your peace with a look, when someone can make you angry with an opinion, you are not in control of your life, they are. And the real tragedy is that most people lose their emotional stability to people who don't even matter, people who are not a part of their destiny, people who have no authority to speak into their lives. The most expensive thing you can give away for free is your emotional power. And every time you react, you're making someone else the author of your internal state. Here's a truth that might sting a little. People don't take your peace. You hand it to them. The only reason someone's words can move you is because somewhere deep inside, there's a part of you that hasn't settled your identity yet. When you know who you are and what you carry, you don't bend with every wind that blows. You don't crumble under every voice that criticizes. You don't fall apart because someone didn't approve. Here's a hook for you. The one who controls your emotions controls your direction, but the one who controls their emotions controls their destiny. And destiny is too valuable to place in the hands of someone whose only qualification is that they happen to cross your path. Most people get angry because they feel powerless. They feel like someone else has taken something from them. Respect, validation, acknowledgement, fairness. But nobody can take from you what they didn't give you. Respect comes from within. Validation comes from your purpose. Fairness comes from your faith. When you understand this, people lose their ability to manipulate your emotional state. And when they lose that ability, you become someone they can't distract, can't destabilize, and can't control. The more you grow, the more you begin to see that negativity is often a reflection of the person giving it, not the person receiving it. That's why reacting to them is a waste of your emotional wealth. You don't argue with someone who doesn't understand your value. You don't fight with someone who hasn't discovered their own. You rise above, because rising above is the language of emotional mastery. One of the most powerful things you can ever do is decide that your peace is non-negotiable. When you set that standard, you stop allowing people to tap into your emotions like they're plugging into a power source. You stop becoming easy to provoke. You stop allowing small-minded people to drag you into battles that don't align with your purpose. And here's another hook. When you protect your emotions, you protect your momentum. Because every time you get angry, you lose time. Every time you get bothered, you lose focus. Every time you let somebody upset you, you lose a piece of your day that you can never get back. Successful people have one thing in common. They refuse to waste emotional energy on things that don't elevate their assignment. There's a version of you that is untouchable, a version of you that no insult, no opinion, no attitude can shake. A version of you that stands so firmly in identity that you can look at someone trying to provoke you and simply smile, not out of arrogance, but out of understanding. Because once you understand that emotional stability is a choice, not a reaction, you elevate into a level where people no longer have access to your inner world. They can talk, but you won't move. They can judge, but you won't shift. They can try to pull you out of character, but you've already decided that your character is too valuable to be put on the table. And the day you make that decision is the day you take back the power you've been giving away your whole life. People don't trigger you, they reveal you. And the moment you truly understand this, your entire emotional world begins to shift. Most people go through life believing that everyone around them is responsible for how they feel. They say things like, she made me angry, he bothered me, they upset me, without realizing that nobody has the power to activate an emotion inside you unless that emotion is already alive within you. A trigger is not an attack. A trigger is a mirror. It shows you the parts of yourself you've avoided, ignored, or buried. And until you confront those parts, the world will keep sending you people who press the buttons you refuse to heal. Here's a hook that will reshape the way you think. Triggers don't expose other people's behavior. They expose your unfinished business. Every time someone irritates you, it's an invitation to grow. Every time someone gets under your skin, it's an opportunity to strengthen the parts of you that still feel fragile. Think about it. If someone calls you something that isn't true, you don't get offended, you get amused. But when someone touches a wound you haven't healed, that's when you react. That's when you feel attacked. That's when you lash out. The reaction is not because of what they said, it's because of what you haven't resolved internally. This is why emotional maturity requires honesty, because you can't fix what you refuse to face and you can't heal what you pretend doesn't hurt. The very thing that irritates you is often the doorway to the next level of your personal growth. And here's where the real transformation begins. Once you accept that triggers come from within, you stop chasing external solutions. You stop trying to change people, control people, avoid people, or silence people. Instead, you start strengthening yourself. You build emotional muscles. You develop internal resilience. You begin to ask, why does this bother me? What belief is being threatened? What insecurity is being exposed? And every time you answer those questions, you reclaim a piece of your power. You stop being a slave to reactions and start becoming a master of awareness. When you understand yourself, the world loses its ability to destabilize you. There's another hook you need to remember. The trigger is not the problem. The meaning you attach to it is. Two people can experience the same comment and have completely different reactions. One feels destroyed, the other feels nothing. The difference is not the comment. The difference is the internal framework. Your emotional responses are shaped by your past experiences, your beliefs, your wounds, your fears, and the stories you tell yourself. And until you rewrite those stories, other people will continue to speak into the chapters you haven't finished editing. But the moment you start doing the internal work, something incredible happens. People who used to bother you no longer have influence. Situations that used to irritate you lose their grip. Words that used to sting feel light. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Growth gives you emotional insulation. Healing gives you emotional clarity. Awareness gives you emotional power. You begin to realize that most people aren't trying to trigger you. They're just operating from their own limited understanding. And instead of reacting, you start observing. Instead of defending, you start discerning. Instead of exploding, you start elevating. The greatest freedom you will ever experience is the freedom from emotional dependency. When you no longer need other people to behave a certain way for you to feel okay, you become unstoppable. You move with confidence, not insecurities. You respond with wisdom, not wounds. You engage with strength, not sensitivity. You become someone who thinks before reacting, listens before judging, and reflects before assuming. And that level of self-awareness is what makes you emotionally untouchable. So the next time you feel triggered, don't ask, why are they doing this to me? Ask, what is this showing me about me? Because that question doesn't just calm your emotions, it transforms your identity. And the moment you embrace that transformation, the world can press all the buttons it wants, but none of them will turn anything on. Your peace is your highest currency, and the moment you start treating it like wealth, your entire life transforms. Most people guard their money, guard their image, guard their possessions, but they freely give away their peace to anyone who knows how to push the right emotional button. Peace is not something you find, it's something you protect. It's not something you stumble into, it's something you intentionally build. And the reason so many people feel drained, irritated, or overwhelmed is because they've been spending their peace on things that don't produce a return. Here's a hook for you. Every reaction is a transaction, and every emotional transaction either makes you richer or makes you poorer. Most people don't realize it, but they are emotionally bankrupt, not because of what happened to them, but because of how often they've allowed others to withdraw from their peace account. When you treat your peace like currency, you become more selective about where you invest it. You stop giving energy to arguments that don't matter, people who aren't growing, conversations that go nowhere, and situations designed to distract you instead of develop you. You begin to realize that peace is not the absence of problems, it's the presence of clarity. It's the ability to stay grounded in who you are, even when everything around you is trying to pull you in the opposite direction. It's choosing response over reaction, wisdom over impulse, purpose over emotion. And this level of discipline separates people who live controlled lives from people who live empowered lives. Most people lose their peace because they try to manage everything around them instead of managing what's inside them. They attempt to control people's opinions, people's actions, people's tone, people's behavior. But the more you try to control the external world, the more chaos you create in your internal world. Peace comes from surrendering what you can't control and dominating what you can. Your reactions, your beliefs, your boundaries, your focus, your energy. That's why one of the most powerful hooks you can remember is this: what you allow in your mind will eventually show up in your mood. If you entertain negativity, you will feel negativity. If you entertain chaos, you will live in chaos. If you entertain toxic people, you will breathe toxic emotions. The truth is, your peace is the engine of your purpose. Everything meaningful you will ever build, your business, your relationships, your character, your leadership, your success, requires a peaceful mind. Great ideas don't come from stressed minds. Bold decisions don't come from anxious hearts. And wise choices don't come from emotionally unstable moments. The clearer your inner world becomes, the stronger your outer world becomes. When you protect your peace, you elevate your productivity, your creativity, and your decision making. Peace sharpens you. Peace empowers you. Peace prepares you. But protecting your peace also means learning how to say no without guilt and yes without fear. It means disconnecting from environments that drain you and reconnecting with environments that grow you. It means distancing yourself from people who feed off your reactions and drawing closer to people who speak to your potential. And here's another hook to anchor deep into your identity. Your peace is not a gift to others. It's a responsibility to yourself. You owe it to your future self to guard your emotional energy like a fortress. You owe it to your calling to keep your mind uncluttered. You owe it to your destiny to stay unavailable to anything that steals your focus. There is a version of you that operates with such a high level of peace that no insult, no attitude, no negativity can break through your atmosphere. A version of you that walks into rooms calm, confident, collected. Not because life is perfect, but because you refuse to let anything external rewrite your internal script. When you reach this level, you move differently. You think differently. You respond differently. You become someone whose silence is louder than other people's noise, whose peace is stronger than other people's pressure. And the most powerful part of this journey is that once you fully embrace your peace as wealth, the world can't afford to disturb you anymore. You stop being accessible to chaos. You stop being available to foolishness. You stop being influenced by small-minded conversations and emotionally weak environments. Because once you realize that your peace is the foundation of your power, you protect it with the same intensity that you protect your future. Purpose makes you unbothered. When you know exactly why you're here, what you're building, and where you're going, the noise around you loses its power. People only get bothered when they don't have something bigger pulling them forward. When you're not anchored in purpose, everything becomes a distraction. Someone's comment, someone's attitude, someone's doubt, someone's judgment. But when your life is driven by a mission greater than your emotions, the same things that once irritated you suddenly feel irrelevant. Purpose becomes a filter. It decides what deserves your energy and what doesn't. And here's a hook to lock into your mind. When your purpose gets louder, people's opinions get quieter. The reason many people stay bothered is because they've let opinions speak louder than their calling. Purpose gives you emotional clarity. It teaches you the difference between what matters and what merely shows up. A purposeful person doesn't argue over every misunderstanding. They don't defend themselves in every conversation. They don't try to prove themselves to people who don't even understand the assignment. Purpose upgrades your perspective. It shifts your eyes from people to the bigger picture. When you're operating in purpose, you don't have time for petty conflict because your energy is already invested in productivity. You're not interested in fighting battles that won't move your life forward. You're not available for drama because you're too committed to destiny. Here's something most people never realize. Irritation is often a symptom of a life without direction. When you lack purpose, you magnify problems. When you live in purpose, you minimize them. Things that once felt like attacks start feeling like background noise because your focus is locked onto something greater. Purpose is like a compass. It keeps you pointed in the right direction even when the winds of criticism blow against you. And here's another hook. Distraction only works on people who haven't discovered their direction. Once you know where you're going, nothing external has the power to pull you off course. Purpose also builds emotional resilience. It strengthens you from the inside out. It gives you a reason to rise above negativity instead of reacting to it. It teaches you patience, discipline, and vision. It teaches you that not every fight deserves a response, not every insult deserves attention, and not every person deserves access to your emotional space. When purpose is at the center of your life, you stop chasing validation and start creating value. You stop responding to noise and start responding to instruction. You stop being bothered by people because you realize that they are not obstacles. They're just scenery along the journey. The most powerful part about walking in purpose is how it changes your emotional posture. Instead of feeling attacked, you feel assigned. Instead of feeling discouraged, you feel driven. Instead of feeling confused, you feel called. Purpose eliminates the need to defend your identity because your results begin speaking for you. When you're focused on building something meaningful, you don't have the bandwidth to get irritated by things that don't matter. Success becomes your response. Discipline becomes your protection. Peace becomes your strategy. And here's a hook that will stay with you. When you make purpose your priority, you automatically make peace your protection. Because purpose takes your attention off people and puts it back on your potential. It removes you from environments where you're drained and places you into environments where you're developed. It shifts your mindset from reaction to creation. And when you're in creation mode, you stop being controlled by emotions that used to dominate you. There is a version of you powered by purpose that is completely unshakable. A version of you that moves with clarity, confidence, and conviction. A version of you that doesn't flinch when people misunderstand you, doesn't break when people criticize you, and doesn't slow down when people doubt you. Because once purpose takes the driver's seat in your life, irritation becomes a place you used to live, not a place you return to. Purpose elevates you to a level where being unbothered isn't an attitude. It's a byproduct of knowing exactly who you are and why you're here. Emotional mastery is real power, and the moment you understand this, you stop letting temporary emotions create permanent damage in your life. Most people believe power comes from dominating a room, raising their voice, or proving a point. But true power is quiet. True power is calm. True power is the ability to remain centered when everything around you is trying to pull you off balance. The person who can control their emotions can control their future. The person who can't control their emotions becomes controlled by everyone and everything around them. Here's a hook that cuts deep. If your emotions are easy to move, your life is easy to manipulate. And a lot of people are not losing to enemies, they're losing to their own reactions. When someone can irritate you in 2 seconds, they own you for those 2 seconds. When someone can make you angry with a single comment, they own your next decision. When someone's judgment can shake your identity, they own your confidence. Emotional mastery is the process of taking that ownership back. It's understanding that you don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to respond to every opinion that comes your way. You don't have to participate in every emotional trap set for you. Emotional mastery is realizing that you are not responsible for how people act. You are responsible for how you respond. And the moment you shift from reaction to response, you elevate from emotional weakness to emotional strength. Most people live their lives on emotional autopilot. They react without thinking. They explode without evaluating. They speak without understanding. And then they wonder why chaos keeps following them. But emotional mastery is intentional. It's deliberate. It's built through awareness. The people who rise the highest in life are not the ones who never feel emotions. They are the ones who refuse to be ruled by them. Emotions are indicators, not dictators. They can inform you, but they should never control you. Another hook to anchor in your mind is this: you will never reach your destiny if your emotions can detour you. Your reactions can derail relationships, ruin opportunities, and sabotage progress, all because you gave temporary feelings permanent permission. Emotional mastery requires discipline. It doesn't happen by accident. It grows through reflection, grounding, spiritual strength, and internal alignment. It grows when you learn to pause instead of panic, to breathe instead of break, to think instead of react. Every time you choose restraint over reaction, you build emotional muscle. Every time you choose clarity over chaos, you strengthen your emotional foundation. Every time you hold your peace, instead of losing it, you become a stronger version of yourself. Emotional mastery isn't about suppressing feelings. It's about directing them. It's about knowing how to channel emotion into focus, frustration into fuel, discomfort into growth, and pressure into purpose. And here's the truth most people never face: your emotions are not triggered by the moment. They're triggered by the meaning you assign to that moment. Two people can experience the same situation and walk away with completely different emotional reactions. Why? Because their internal filters are different. Emotional mastery teaches you to examine your filters, upgrade your interpretations, and take authority over your internal world. It teaches you that you don't have to take things personally, even when they're directed at you. Most people aren't reacting to you, they're reacting to themselves. They're responding from their wounds, their fears, their insecurities, and their limited mindset. And once you see that clearly, you stop absorbing their emotions and start observing their patterns. There is immense power in being the person who cannot be moved, shaken, provoked, or manipulated. A person who operates with emotional mastery is dangerous, not because they are aggressive, but because they are unshakable. You can't control them through intimidation, negativity, pressure, or drama. You can't pull them out of character because their character is rooted too deeply. You can't distract them because their focus is too disciplined. And another hook to remember is this: the person who governs their emotions governs their life. You become the architect of your reactions, the steward of your mindset, and the protector of your peace. There is a version of you waiting on the other side of emotional mastery. A version of you who doesn't get triggered easily, who doesn't get offended quickly, who doesn't get derailed by other people's energy. A version of you who commands the room not through emotion, but through composure. A version of you who responds with wisdom instead of impulse. Strength instead of sensitivity, purpose instead of panic. And once you evolve into that version, no one will ever have emotional authority over you again. Because emotional mastery isn't just power, it's freedom. So from today forward, make a decision. Nobody gets to write the script of your emotions but you. Nobody gets to pull you off your path. Nobody gets to steal your peace. Nobody gets to own your inner world. The secret to never getting angry or bothered by anyone is not about controlling them. It's about elevating yourself. And when you rise into that higher level of self-command, the noise around you becomes background music, and your purpose becomes the only voice you listen to. Stay focused, stay grounded, stay unbothered, and walk in the authority God placed inside you. Because the moment you realize your peace is non-negotiable, everyone else has no choice but to adjust.